if people aren't aware, okay, obviously the handling of Laquan McDonald's murder is enough to that she should go. That by itself is enough. Just because actually you were talking about handing out literature. There's actually a really cool zine that you guys are like handing out. That's like cool as hell. It's all these reasons that she must go and reasons that you hate her, which is great. Other than Laquan and the horrible, awful way that was handled. Let's lay down, because again, last time you were on, we haven't talked about how you've been against Anita since before it was cool. What are other reasons she must go other than just the strict handling of Laquan McDonald?
That's a great question. I would definitely refer people to a couple of sites that have great reasons, and I'll tell you some of them. Mm-hmm. One is a site called fireanita.com, which has a great listing of different kinds of reasons for why she has to go. There's also a site called Alvarez Must Go at WordPress.com that also has a list of these reasons. But I'll just name a couple. Anita Alvarez, even after people have been exonerated for wrongful conviction, refuses to make sure that those convictions are vacated. She is insistent on keeping innocent people behind bars, no matter what. And I think people who have seen her disastrous interview from a few years ago on 60 Minutes about the case of the Dixmoor Five, You can look that up. You'll see the kind of horror with which everybody watched that, but yet she still got reelected. She went after and prosecuted a young woman who was 19 years old at the time, who had a domestic violence call to her house. When the police came, they separated her and her partner and took her into her own bedroom. One of the police officers who was with her in that bedroom sexually assaulted her. She had the kind of fortitude and courage to take her complaint to IPRA, to the police district, to file a complaint against the particular officer who assaulted her. The cops tried to convince her that she shouldn't file against this person, that they would have to come to her work and ask questions, that they would take care of it. And so when she finally figured out that the police weren't going to help her but were trying to deter her, she decided to use her phone as a recording device, which the police realized they were being recorded and took her phone from her and took it to Anita Alvarez's office. And Anita Alvarez prosecuted this young woman under a statute that has now been ruled unconstitutional by our Supreme Court of Illinois, but under an eavesdropping law. And this young woman, her name was Tiawanda Moore, she faced up to 15 years in prison if she was found guilty. Anita Alvarez took this case to trial. And I know a lot about this case because myself and a friend of mine, Melissa Spatz, had started a project called the Chicago Task Force on Violence Against Girls and Young Women. One of the first things we did was take on that case of Tiawanda Moore and try to push for public support and public recognition of what was going on. Went and brought petitions to the state's attorney, to her, to Anita Alvarez, did all sorts of resistance pushes to tell her to drop the charges against the survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. And Anita Alvarez went ahead. The trial was a day long. The jury was out for a couple of hours and came back and acquitted this young woman, Tiawanda Moore, of the charges of eavesdropping, because the tape was played of the police actually trying to convince her not to file these charges.
Wow.
And so Anita Alvarez had that information. He still went ahead with the vicious, malicious, vindictive prosecution of this young woman. And she's not the only survivor of domestic violence who's being prosecuted currently by the state's attorney's office. I mean, the list of just horrible, egregious sins that this woman and that her office have been part of is just so long, and people can find them at the sites that I suggested.